Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Marable, and I'm Dean of Students at Norfolk State University. Welcome to Picking Up the Pieces, Healing Our Community. This is a campus community initiative virtual series. This is the first of a six-part series. Tonight's session is Your Mental Health Matters. You Are Not Alone. Introducing Dr. Vanessa Jenkins Hightower, tonight's moderator.
Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. I'm not going to be before you long with this introduction because I know that you guys are going to just sit back and really get a wealth of knowledge, information, and some tips to carry your way so that you all know that you're not alone. So I want to go ahead and introduce BENICIA Hernandez, and she can share with you about who she is, what she does, and I promise you guys that you're going to love everything that she talks about. Thank you, BENICIA, and welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this new world that we've been adjusting to all year long. I'm so excited to be here this evening, and I really am thankful for Dr. Jenkins giving me the opportunity to be one of your speakers and to really be the starting point of what we hope is a great support system for everyone out there so that we can really focus on the healing process. So let's get right to it. Tonight's topic is Your Mental Health Matters. I'm BENICIA Hernandez. I'm licensed as a professional counselor, and I'm also licensed as a substance abuse treatment practitioner. I won't take a lot of time to talk about all of my credentials. I'm going to save that for later because I feel like our topic is really important, and we'll just jump right in and begin working through this process to see where what we can accomplish this evening. All right, let's just really face our reality. This has been a tough year. We've had so many losses, whether it's, culturally, we've had a lot of different struggles, trying to formulate our new way of life, and just even the whole change that we were totally unexpecting really took us all, really blindsided all of us. And so, this has been a tough year. We certainly weren't expecting this year to be the way it had turned out. I remember everyone talking about going into the year 2020 and, the excitement for it and, the conversations about, the progress that we were going to make, the vacations we were going to take, and it just really didn't pan out that way. So here we are in the beginning of September, and we're really at the point where a lot of us are still picking up the pieces. And so I think it's important that we're all honest with ourselves and with one another about how hard this year actually has been. And, what it is that we can do to really kind of promote the healing process so that we don't stay stuck emotionally as some of us have been struggling. So let's talk about our losses. We've lost a lot of different cultural icons. It started at the beginning of the year with Kobe Bryant. And just even within the last week, we lost Chadwick Boseman. We've lost numerous people throughout the year, unfortunately, to murder. And it's been a tough year. So we're grieving a lot of different individuals. Beyond that, a lot of us have even, lost family members or friends to this coronavirus pandemic. And that too is another huge grieving process that I think is important for us to focus on throughout this evening. And then we have the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. This really started, I can remember, like I literally can remember back, this was going on, at the beginning of the year, but it was about mid-March that, things started intensifying, and we started watching the news more intensely, and then our children were brought out of school. And so at that point, I know that it hit me so hard because I feel like our children's education is so important, and I was just really devastated. So the first couple of months, I can admit, of this pandemic, it was the most anxiety-driven time of my life. It really was. And I know that for a professional like me to acknowledge that, that it had to be so hard for so many people. And there was just such a loss of our sense of security. You know, we were just living our normal life and we were just handling our business the way we had always taken care of our business. And so abruptly, so many things were taken from us: our sense of security, certainly our stability, our inability to move the way we had been used to, employment for so many. So many small business owners lost their businesses. Our children's education was just so devastating. And certainly the most important was the loss of life that was experienced and continues to be experienced throughout this time. And so it's just been such a very, what's the word I should use? Devastating time. And in the clinical world, we relate that to trauma. So I've always been preaching throughout the year how we are living in an ongoing trauma due to this pandemic. And this is not, how we are supposed to be operating on a day-to-day basis. It's not normal. And so it's understandable that we are struggling emotionally through this time. And what we really want to do this evening is really look at what the struggles look like, so that we can assess whether we are struggling with that individually ourselves, and then, try to focus on finding change and resources so that we can move forward past this time of crisis. So here we were trying to get through this pandemic, and our lives became turned upside down again in the beginning of June. And it was just the most horrific and devastating thing to be able to watch. And I'm completely traumatized by having witnessed the murder of George Floyd. And so when I think back to that time, and how we were all glued to the TV initially for that, and then things escalated, and I just think about how we have really taken what is the most worst thing that could happen to one of our people and really pushed forward and reframed and found ways to turn a most horrible situation into something positive, which is the continual need for societal change and for the breakdown of systemic racism. And so I think that this year, this Black Lives Matter movement and everything that goes with it has really also greatly affected us in a lot of different ways, and both negative and positive. And it's certainly a situation that we should always be taking into account when we think about our mental health and how we are moving forward in our lives. So what are some of the emotions that we have experienced in this year? Well, I would say the top emotion would be anxiety. This year has been a year of the unknown, and anxiety is not having a sense of security and safety, and always being at a heightened emotional state. And I think that a lot of us have lived, the majority of our year in that anxious state. We've also experienced anger, and rightfully so. A lot of people are angry for a lot of different reasons. And anger doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's actually good to be angry at times. It's good to be able to experience all emotions. And what we really need to do at this point, though, is channel our anger and work towards goals and solutions. We've certainly had frustrations. This has been a very frustrating year. The unknown of, whether the kids are going to go back to school, whether you're going to go back to work, whether we're going to telehealth work forever and ever and ever. It's just been a very frustrating time. And then there's certainly grief. We've been grieving so many different things, and grief doesn't have to just be related to death. We've had to grieve the loss of our sense of normalcy, the lifestyle that we used to live. We've had to grieve through sicknesses. Some of us have actually experienced coronavirus, and that is not an easy thing to face. We've had to grieve through the loss of the Black individuals that continue to be murdered. We've had to grieve the loss of so many individuals that have sacrificed their lives and, have lost their life to coronavirus. It's really been a year of grief. And it's understandable that there's sadness, that people are lonely, and that people are experiencing depression. Now, what are some of the other things that we have experienced throughout this year? Certainly strength. This year would have taught us, if anything, that we're all survivors and that we have to be resilient. And it certainly taught us the importance of being united, whether that was united just to figure out where the toilet paper was going to be at, or united in, determining, how we were going to move forward in our lives. But it's been a year where certainly we have been empowered, and I'm so grateful for that. The fact that we have the opportunity to empower ourselves and empower others. And so there's just a lot of really good things that we can also focus on during this time. So let's talk about, I want to have a really open dialogue about depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations, because this is really what's going on. And towards the end, we're going to take your questions, and I'll be able to answer a lot of your questions. So I really just want us to be really thinking internally as I talk about these next few slides.
Can I ask you one question,
Yes.
Benicia? Your screen is not showing, and they can't see your presentation. Can you just share your screen?
They haven't seen any of those slides?
No. They're saying they can't see them. So just go ahead and share your screen. And
I thought that screen was showing.
Yeah.
How did it get unshown?
We don't know what happened, and it just went away. So just go ahead and share. I see people taking notes, but they want to see the screen.
No, absolutely. I don't know how it got unshared.
Go down at the bottom and share screen. You see at the bottom there? The little green button. There
Is it
you
showing
go.
now?
It's beginning to show. That's right. Confronting your mental health symptoms. Thank you so much.
Okay. So now I'm scared to go
Nope.
to
All you're gonna do is,
slideshow.
yeah, you're gonna go right up there to the slideshow, and you're gonna current screen right there.
Okay, so
There
now
you
can
go.
everyone see it?
Everybody can see it. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna go back just because I feel like some of those were important. Okay. And I won't take time to talk all through this again, but I just feel like these were important slides. And I apologize, I did not know that nobody could see my screen. Okay, so let's move forward. We're going to talk about confronting our mental health symptoms. So I'm licensed as a professional counselor, and that's my trade. And so as I went to school and took all the clinical hours I needed to take and get my license, and became, even more importantly, a business owner, I really began to understand the importance of being straightforward when I talk to people within my counseling sessions, and as I'm running my business or trying to lead my business. I really come from the perspective of let's really put everything on the table. I think it's important that we are all acknowledging what our symptoms are, and these next few slides, it's really just an opportunity for each of us to really kind of assess to see, are we struggling with any of these symptoms? Now, these slides are not giving you a diagnosis. You would certainly need to go see a physician or a therapist to be appropriately diagnosed. But I think it's important that we, confront, some of the things that we have been experiencing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is anxiety. Now, when we're thinking about anxiety, we think sometimes that we're just feeling nervous or restless or tense, but there's really so many other thought processes that go with and the feeling of anxiety. So we could also be thinking of that we're in danger or panic or doom. And certainly this year has really given us the opportunity to have that heightened sense of anxiety, because we have been in a state of panic for the majority of the year, actually. And so then we also think about whether your heart rate is increasing, whether you're hyperventilating or breathing rapidly. Are you sweating or trembling? Do you have problems thinking and concentrating? Has there been a change in your sleep patterns? Do you have insomnia, or are you excessively sleeping? And then do you have gastrointestinal issues? And so you don't have to have all these symptoms to say that you have anxiety, but I really just want everyone to kind of sit back and think about what it looks like for them when they are feeling a heightened sense of their self, and other than, when they are feeling calm, and really take a personal look to see if they would be experiencing any of these symptoms. Then I also want to talk about depression. I think it's so many of us struggling with depression right now, whether it's been diagnosed or not diagnosed, and it's actually understandable. This hasn't been a happy year. There's been a lot of loss and a lot of stress and a lot of hopelessness. And sometimes people don't even realize that they are actually depressed because they may have always lived in this current state, or are really just kind of numb to what they are experiencing. So when you think about depression, think about whether you're feeling helpless or hopeless, like you can't find any solutions to any of your problems. You can't figure out a situation that would make things better. Also think about whether you have disengaged in your daily activities. Have you stopped doing the hobbies that you used to do? Have you stopped eating? Have you stopped having sex with your partner? Have you stopped your ability to really feel joy? Think about whether your weight has fluctuated. You could have had a weight loss or a weight gain. You could be eating less or eating more. That could also be a symptom that's contributing to depression. And then just like anxiety, has your sleep been affected? Are you finding yourself awake at night, early in the morning, just thinking about everything, all of your problems? Or are you avoiding life altogether and sleeping excessively, 10, 12, 14 hours a day? Are you agitated or angry? Do you feel restless? Do you have a very low tolerance? Are you impatient? Those are also symptoms of depression. Do you have a loss of energy? Sometimes we don't realize that when we're feeling really fatigued or sluggish, or we just physically can't pull ourselves together, and it's hard to complete even the small tasks, that can be related to depression. What about feelings of worthlessness or guilt? Are you harshly criticizing yourself and refusing to move forward beyond your mistakes? You could also think about, are you drinking excessively? Have you begun to engage in reckless behavior? Do you have trouble focusing, problems making decisions, or remembering things? And then is your body in pain? Do you have headaches, backaches, your muscle aches, or your stomach in pain? These are all symptoms of depression. Sometimes once we get into this depressed emotional state, we really feel so hopeless that we may not outwardly verbalize and say, I'm going to kill myself. But even statements like, the world would be better off without me, or I wish I hadn't been born, nobody would care if I wasn't here anymore. That is when your depression has escalated into suicidal ideations and suicidal behaviors. And I think it's so important for us to assess whether we're in that situation, and even more important, whether if we have an understanding that maybe some of our friends or families have verbalized these types of situations. I find that people try to shy away from suicide, asking people about if they're feeling suicidal, because it's scary. Nobody really wants to have to take ownership or confront that or be responsible for that. And oftentimes, when we had an opportunity to help someone, we might have avoided being that individual because we were scared to ask them, how they were truly feeling. Not, hey, how you feeling today? Like, really straightforward. Do you feel like you're going to kill yourself? It takes a lot of effort to be that straightforward with somebody, but you just never really know what that individual is going through on the inside. And that opportunity for you to be very direct to them could really even save their life. So when we think about someone that is having suicidal behaviors, you have to be cognizant of whether they have begun socially isolating themselves and not engaging at all with anyone. Verbalizing feelings of death and dying or violence, feeling trapped and hopeless about their situation and verbalizing it, increasing alcohol and drug use, changing their routine, and then participating in self-destructive behaviors. And even sometimes people, they don't really necessarily want to die. They just don't have the ability to figure it out for themselves. So they'll throw hints to other people, and they'll make posts on social media with cryptic messages. Those are opportunities for us to really put ourselves forward and try to help someone that may be struggling internally and just can't figure it out on their own. So whether that's you currently feeling that way, or whether you can recognize that maybe somebody that you're close to is feeling that way, don't overlook the opportunity to really have a heart-to-heart conversation with that person. to be able to give them some guidance or encouragement or lead them in the right direction so that they can get the help that they need. All right, now we're going to talk about my favorite topic. I've spent this year, and even since the creation of my company, I have always been so very passionate about breaking the stigma of seeking mental health services in our Black community. I have an understanding as to why people are reluctant to seek services, seek care, seek counseling, go to a psychiatrist. But just because I have that understanding makes me really want to even promote and encourage and guide people through the process of seeking help. My company is called Life's Journey. I have this perspective that we are all so very blessed to be given one life. We don't get any redos. We only get this one opportunity. And it really hurts my heart when I see individuals losing months, years, even decades of their life because they won't confront their mental health. And so I really have made it my passion to try to promote the importance of mental health in our Black communities so that we can create change. And it's amazing how you can really see even a household change if the mother addresses her mental health, you know, and how it just has a positive effect on everyone that is also in that household. So why are we so reluctant to seek help? Well, the reality is that 400 years of slavery has created this environment that we have just to be resilient, and we have to just tough it out. And, you know, when you're in such a survival mode and you don't have the opportunity to even experience emotions for generations and generations, that in turn will make you not see the importance of addressing your mental health. Certainly, systemic racism has created such a blockage for why our culture has not been so accepting of mental health. There's also been such a reliance on religion. And don't get me wrong, religion is great, but I think you need your religion and a counselor. And, you know, just that whole perception of pray it out, go to the pastor's wife, let them sit down and, you know, pray over you. That certainly has also limited individuals' view on the necessity of seeking counseling services and seeking mental health services altogether. And then generationally, when you think about, you know, how we have really had generation after generation has been really trained to tough it out. I think we are in such a much better place now that we have a lot of supports, and we have a lot of people that are really, you know, trying to help break this stigma. We have lots of stars and athletes that, you know, acknowledge when they get counseling. And I think that that's how we're going to be able to see change. But previously, it's just been such a perspective of you tough it out, and then you teach your child to tough it out, and then they teach their child to tough it out. We've also seen, and it's funny because somebody said this to me not even too long ago, not even 2 weeks ago. That's what they do, being that the white culture is the one that goes to counseling services. Well, why is that? You know, and that perspective has also been done generationally, something that we don't necessarily participate in. There's also been misdiagnosis. And, you know, when people talk about not being diagnosed correctly and talk about, well, they put my child on this medication and made him like a zombie, those things get in our head, and then we in turn won't return to try and figure out what the actual diagnosis is and how we can resolve some of the other issues. Then there's the lack of service providers that are our color. And I think we're in a good position because we have great schools, Norfolk State being one of them, that are promoting a lot more social worker, licensed professional counselors, and we're really in a position that we are now growing our resources. And I want to also say that it's totally wonderfully fine not to have a service provider that's your color. It's actually sometimes good to go to somebody that has a different perspective. Now, I do think that as counselors, we all have to be very culturally aware and always be educating ourselves on the different cultural differences. But we can gain so much from learning from others, other people that are professionals that may not necessarily be our color. There's also such a focus on the physical ailments because the Black community struggles with so many other medical problems. I think the fact that medical issues kind of take the forefront and mental health symptoms end up taking the rear, when really a lot of those medical issues go hand in hand with mental health symptoms and only are exacerbated by the different physical problems that individuals are experiencing. And then there's poverty. When you are impoverished, you're not thinking about some counseling because you're in survival mode. I think all of these different things have created this repetitive pattern as to why we have been not as accepting as seeking care. And I think that now we're in a place where we have to change those perspectives and work towards some acceptance of services so that we can heal and that the next generation can heal as well. So how do we do that? How do we change the landscape of using mental health services? Well, as I was thinking and putting this whole PowerPoint together, I'm always trying to figure out, like, what is it that we need to do? I'm a super problem solver. I never stay in the problem. I always get to the solution. And I think about how it's just so important for even tonight, you know, those who have came on and those that will watch later on, you know, to be able to have this opportunity to confront our unhealthy generational patterns. And also think about how we have used different substances, alcohol, drugs, to self-medicate instead of seeking counseling services. So really confronting what those unhealthy self-medicating behaviors look like. Creating a safe space for open dialogue. Certainly tonight, this is the goal, that we want to be able to engage and talk openly about what our struggles are so that we can feel secure in moving past just talking and really pushing forward to finding resources and following through with doctor's appointments and counselor appointments. Then also sharing our own personal success stories. It's amazing how when someone can share and be open about what they struggled with, how that can really empower somebody else, because a lot of times we think we're alone. We're all alone. We're the only person experiencing this. And I think we are now living in this awesome social media age where we're able to share, sometimes too much, but also be able to be open about some of the things that we struggle with. And that helps other people. I know, you know, I have a social media platform and I often share, and I know that it always comes back that someone is, you know, either DMing me or reaching out to me saying thank you for sharing. So I think that we should take that perspective to be able to own up and not hide. And if we are going to counseling services and never acknowledging it, but sharing with other people so that we can help others. Refusing to pass judgment towards our fellow humans. this is such an important part. You know, we have to really be so supportive of one another that we are going to just say, it's okay if you're struggling. It truly is okay if you're struggling. Let me give you some guidance as to where you can go get some help. Let me tell you what I also went through and how I got through it. And never being coming from a judging perspective, but just really being supportive. Researching and reading more. That is really a way that we can privately just begin to feel more comfortable in understanding what some of our symptoms are, what some of our patterns are, and really feel comfortable when we even go in front of a doctor or a therapist, so that we have an understanding of what our struggles are, and we'll seek out services. And then supporting our Black boys and our Black men. That's just so absolutely important that we talk about how important it is that they communicate. We don't come to them from the perspective of tough it up, you can't cry. No, really allowing our Black boys and our Black men the opportunity to share their feelings and their emotions, to know that they are supported and not judged by us as individuals. And then, of course, my most favorite, protecting our Black women. And prioritizing that when a Black woman is saying that she's in pain or she's being abused, that it's something serious, and that we should be supportive of all of our Black women. And processing through our traumas and then focusing on healing. There are so many things that beyond this year that each of us may have experienced that could be identified as a traumatic part of our life. And it's really important for us to process what we have went through with a professional, and then focus on the healing moving forward. It's amazing to watch that process of somebody coming in and, you know, really working through what they have went through in their life, and then seeing them grow and flourish. And it's just such a great opportunity to see an individual grow and move past some trauma in their lives. So let's talk about what types of services are offered, because I feel like sometimes people just don't know what to do, and it's understandable. Well, you have outpatient therapy. Now, outpatient therapy is where you sit down with a therapist. Now, that therapist can be LCSW, which is a licensed clinical social worker. It could be a LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor. It could even be a resident, somebody that's working towards their licensure. It could be a psychologist. It could be a nurse practitioner that has is also able to do outpatient therapy. So there are a variety of people that you can sit down and have sessions with and process all your feelings and emotions with. What I don't want people to get caught up in is trying to find that most perfect fit. This is where I always find that people stop. They're researching, I don't know whether I want to go to this person or that person. How about just go? Go, and don't just go once. Go several times before you make a final assessment as to whether that person is for you, that you can connect to. And if that person is not somebody that you can emotionally connect to, then go to somebody else. I find that the biggest thing that people do is they either never take that first chance of going, or they go and then they stop and they never find somebody else to replace that person if they feel like they can't connect to them. Then we have psychiatric services, which is also known as medication management. So psychiatric services and medication management is when you have been given a diagnosis that you need some medication for, whether that's depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, ADHD. Different individuals can do those diagnosing and prescribe medications. It can be a psychiatrist, a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, And even a primary care physician can certainly address depression and anxiety. And so that is what we in the field call psychiatric services or medication management. So what's most effective to me is often the combination of both. Using outpatient therapy and psychiatric services will give you the opportunity to become emotionally stable from the perspective of taking the medication, but also have that opportunity to sit down and talk with the therapist ongoing, and so that you can make progress to resolving some of the internal issues you're struggling with. You have college counseling centers. They often have individuals that are working towards their licensure and that can meet with you. They also have licensed professional counselors and professionals that can meet with you. So if you are in a situation where you are feeling that you're struggling with any of these symptoms that we have talked about today, please reach out to your college counseling center. Then you have lots of different supportive services, and I certainly couldn't name them all. I would say the easiest way to find the supportive services would be to call your insurance company and ask them what they offer, and make them explain to you what types of services are offered out there. You can do counseling online, and nowadays we're doing counseling telehealth. So there are so many different options and ways to be able to seek help now. And I just really want to impress on everyone the importance of pushing past the thought of needing help and making those appointments and following through with the appointments and following through again and again so that you can get to a better place. All right, so let's push forward and let's talk about the healing process. So what's important is that we have to now engage and be able to function daily. So how do we do that? We need to really build our coping skills. And so how do we build our coping skills? We have to take a full assessment of what we are struggling with. And I often tell people, I said, really map out take one day and map it all the way out. And then at the end of that day, really take a good assessment as to how your day went and what you struggled with and where your time went. And, that gives you a good understanding of, what you're going through. So we need to get sleep. We need to be eating 3 healthy meals a day. We need to be exercising. Exercising is so vitally important to our mental health. People don't realize that it's not only for a physical benefit or for a weight loss. It truly is an opportunity for your mental health to be affected in a positive way. So what are some of the things that we can do to change the way we think? Recognize when our thinking is a negative thought process and reframe and stay away from negative emotions. Avoid black and white thinking. The thing about life is so full of every single shade of gray. Most things are not just going to be this or this. There's 50 other things that could happen in between. And sometimes we get so caught up in thinking like everything is so extreme when it's truly, not as bad as it seems. So we really need to recognize our behavior, whether our behavior is contributing to these negative emotional states. And then what should we be doing emotionally? Well, we need to express ourselves. I cannot express enough how important it is for us to communicate. Stop bottling everything up inside of you. Use the opportunity to talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers, but go beyond that. Talk to a therapist and really, process through some of your emotions. And then give of yourself and support others. Don't just be that person that's always taking, but use the opportunity to be that supportive person to somebody else. Monitor your feelings throughout the day. A good way to do that is to even kind of do a mood chart and, really take an opportunity to say, how do I feel right now? several times throughout the day so that you can have an understanding of, was I feeling depressed the whole day? Did I start out good and then something happened to trigger my anger or frustration? And then really become so in tune with yourself and understanding, you know, what your emotions are throughout the day. Connecting with our loved ones. That's just so vitally important that we have that connection with the people that we love every single day. And that we are even the person to initiate it, be the person to send the text or that quick phone call or give that quick hug before you leave, or, you know, the hug when you get home. Initiating all of those opportunities of contact, physical contact and emotional contact with others really helps us, you know, cope with some of the things that we're going through. Organizing our environment, and, you know, the less clutter we have around us certainly helps our brain to be less cluttered as well. Changing our environment if it's too stressful. There's nothing wrong with saying this is too much right now. I need a break. I need an opportunity to regroup. I think that's such a good way to, you know, own our own feelings and say, I can't do this right now, and that's okay. Give me an opportunity to pull myself together. So let's talk about how we're going to heal from this trauma of the year that we've been experiencing. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're not going to isolate ourselves. We're going to face what we've actually been confronted with. We're not going to run and stay in the house forever. We're still going to wear our masks, and we're still going to telehealth work as we are instructed. But we have to find ways to really reconnect and re-engage with the world in a safe way, but really not avoiding this whole year that we have been exposed to, really facing it and, you know, moving forward so that we can get past the trauma, the ongoing trauma that we are exposed to. Listen to your body. If your body needs some rest, give it some rest. Get back to your routine or make a new routine. This is an opportunity for us to all really reevaluate our routines. I know I certainly reevaluated my routine and would have never figured out that bike riding became the new happy hour of 2020, and how much fun that became, you know, developing a new routine. So the next thing we can do is fix what's in our control. We do have control over our lives. We may not have control over every single thing, but we do have the opportunity to take charge of some of the things that we have, can make change for, and really work on those things and fix those opportunities. Exercise regularly. I know I talked about this in the last screen, but this is definitely still a way to heal from trauma. We really have to exercise on a regular basis. It's not only good for your physical health, but it's so beneficial to your mental health. Count your blessings. This has really been a year for us to kind of reevaluate so many different perspectives. And while things can be perceived as bad, I can name so many things that have went so very well this year. And, you know, even though if those are simple things, you know, we really have to count the blessings that we have been given throughout this year. Expand your support group. This is a great time to find different ways, even if it's just through online, you know, find other opportunities to find support for yourself. Find new ways to celebrate life. You know, this is a new change for all of us. We have seen things in a different light, and there's so many positive things that we can celebrate. And I think that's so important for us to, you know, go through the healing process and find new ways to celebrate life. And then I cannot reiterate enough that it's so important to seek professional help if you are struggling emotionally. And, you know, what I want to say is when people think about counseling, you don't have to think about it as a forever commitment. You would be surprised what a good 5 or 10 sessions can do for you. And if you stay forever, that's wonderful too. But it's really just an opportunity to have the most objective, view to really kind of help you guide yourself through the healing process. So let's finish out by reframing our year and changing our perspective from the very dreary and negative thought process of everything going wrong and all of the traumas that we have experienced to really focusing on what has went very well in this year. So I'll talk about stillness. Like, my life is always on fast forward, and it's typically always on fast forward. But this year has really given myself and, you know, so many of us an opportunity to slow things down and to really be able to think about different things and plan different things because of the stillness of the year and because we were forced to be in a situation where we may not have been running around the world like we're so used to. In turn, that also gives us a great value of our time. You know, we have been given time to repair relationships, spend more time with our children. I, you know, certainly had the opportunity. I've been hanging out with my 7-year-old since March on a daily basis and, you know, really valuing that time that I've had, the extra time that I've had with her. This year has also been such a great year to define what your purpose is in life. Certainly, you know, we have all been challenged with so many different things throughout this year. And, you know, it's an opportunity for us to think, you know, what is it that I want to do? You know, where do I stand? What can I change? And, you know, how can I have a more purposeful life? We've been exposed to a lot of different things. We've had to reflect on our identity. And this certainly has been a year of truth. And, you know, that's an ongoing you know, struggle, or actually it's not even a struggle. It's an ongoing truth that we can live with. You know, this is what we're up against. And, you know, we have enough resiliency to face everything that has been thrown towards us and, you know, to come out and stronger. We've certainly had to learn a lot more patience throughout this year, myself included. And, you know, it's just really been a true test to slow things down and to have to wait throughout the process of being able to accomplish our goals and really just become patient. And I also want to talk about how this has really been such a great year of love. We are all very blessed to be here and, you know, to have different people that are in our corner. And I just think that, you know, we have to never take for granted the love that we have and the love that we should be giving. And, you know, everything that this year has really challenged us with, you know, we should be grateful for, and we should find ways to be thankful. So let's close with this. When we learn how to become resilient, we learn how to embrace the beautifully broad spectrum of the human experience. And this has been a year, certainly a great experience for all of us, and really an opportunity for us to grow and for us to confront some of the struggles that we have had throughout the year, and for us to really move forward towards healing. This list, we're going to email out if you would like, will be the resources in some of our communities, and it's just got a bunch of really good help that comes from our cultural perspective. Here are our references, and then this is me. So I'm Benicia Hernandez. I'm a Norfolk native. I've been to all the colleges here, and well, not all of them, but almost all of them. I went to TCC, did my associates, got my bachelor's from ODU, my master's from here at NSU. I'm currently at LSUS pursuing my MBA. I explained that I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a licensed substance abuse treatment practitioner. I own a mental health agency, Life's Journey. We've been open for 4 years. I have 40 awesome employees, and we really preach and live the mantra of helping others get to living their best life, and helping them along their journey to figure out what their mental health, how their mental health affects their ability to function in their day-to-day life. I also have a nonprofit, Life's Journey, Life's Journey. We do a lot of great services. We actually have right now a bike ride. We are raising money for distance learning boxes. We understand that the children are going to be continuing to return to school online. And so we've created these awesome distance learning boxes, which really focuses not only on educational resources, but the mental wellness of our children. So it's just this cool toolkit where we have stress balls and affirmation cards and books on Black history, and it's just been such a exciting journey putting this whole project together. And we'll choose a public school in Norfolk and distribute these boxes after our bike ride on September 12th. So if anyone wants to join us, we would love for you to support our project. And then I want to just talk about how I am so very blessed to be on this life journey, and my most valued role is a mother. I have 4 wonderful children, and I am just in a good place where I feel like, I've been very blessed with the opportunity to help others really address their mental health. And, for that, I'm grateful. Here's my information if you need to get connected with me. And at this point, we would want to continue to engage in the conversation, and we'll take some questions.
Just before we go to Q&A, we have a brief poll we'd like to put up because we'd like to know who we have on the webinar with us today. So we're going to take just about 15 or 20 seconds to do this poll, if you could, please. Okay, that's great. So we have several students on here, as well as some faculty, some community members, and some administrators. That's great. And we will go ahead now with our question and answer portion of the program.
I'd like to thank you so much, Benicia, for that wonderful presentation. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Anonymous attendee. They said, I can't thank you all enough for this. For the last couple of months, as I've been trying to get to sleep, I lay awake for hours because some thoughts keep racing. Do you have any suggestions that might calm them down?
Yes, there's certainly a lot of different techniques that you can use. I would always recommend that you seek care with your primary care physician. I think you would definitely benefit from some counseling services, but there's also some really good mindfulness apps that kind of help you center yourself at the end of the day. You can do that very easily by getting an app on your phone, and really just practicing mindfulness altogether is so very healthy and beneficial to us as individuals. And that's really just going through the process of kind of slowing ourselves down to recenter ourselves, either using an app or some music, and calming ourselves. And I think that that's what we really need to do before we go to sleep. We end our day without a lot of Instagramming and television and all those other things that we often do, and kind of center ourselves. The other thing I would say that would be really helpful to this individual would be to journal. Journal before bed, wrap that up, and allow yourself to tie up your day and then give yourself an opportunity to get some sleep. If it continues, I really, really think you should go seek some professional help because, sleep is so vitally important and such a necessity because people don't realize that when you continue to not get enough sleep, it creates mental health issues and you just can't function at the capacity you need to. And a lot of us get used to that lack of sleep, but that doesn't make it okay. It just means that, our body has been forced to move forward with less sleep, and that's not healthy for us at all.
Okay, thank you. The next one, if I were to see a therapist and they wanted to prescribe me with medicine, would I have to accept it?
So a therapist does not prescribe medication. That's why I wanted to explain the difference. You have a therapist where you sit down and talk to and basically process through your struggles and your emotions. Now, a therapist will recommend that you go to somebody that can prescribe medication if they feel that it's beneficial. Certainly, nobody can force anyone to take medication. We're not in as we practice, that's never our goal to force anything on anyone. However, I would say that if you start therapy and you've been going consistently and you can't see change, that you should reconsider as to why you would not want to take medication and at least give it an opportunity and do a combination of both, which is what I think is the best way to really confront and work towards change.
Okay, another question. Is uninterrupted sleep worse than little sleep?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Is interrupted sleep worse than little sleep?
I mean,
So I guess what you're saying is it worse that you have interrupted sleep or little sleep at all? Which is it just as bad?
I would say that would depend on the person individually. I wouldn't know how to answer that. I don't think either are necessarily the best, but I mean, I think if you can accumulate more hours of sleep, that would serve your body more rest, even if it is interrupted, versus having fewer hours of sleep, because your body just needs a certain amount of sleep to really recharge. It's amazing how important sleep is to be able to move to the next day effectively.
Yeah. Now we did have Miss Waller, Latanya. She wanted to see the last slide again, but we'll show that at the end after the Q&A.
Okay.
Ms. Vines, what motivated you to start your own private mental health skill building company? What advice would you give to someone who wants to become an LPC who is currently working in the field as a QMHP?
QMHP. Well, if you know me, then you will know that I will always preach to continue your education and to go towards licensure. I'm licensed as a professional counselor, and I can do counseling. However, just because you're licensed doesn't mean that you would necessarily just have to do counseling. There's so many options, but it's really just a level of freedom. I would always encourage someone to seek their licensure as their path, and then then their path can go in many different ways. Now, when I decided to open my company, I had worked for a couple different agencies. I had worked in community mental health, and I have always been really good at what I do. And I knew that I learned a lot of the different roles. And so it was kind of just like a natural progression. After I got my license, I said, well, the next step was to open up my own agency. Now, little did I know how hard it is. It's not easy at all, but it's so absolutely rewarding and challenging and beneficial. And, it's just been a really, really great life experience. And we're just at the beginning of it.
Thank you. I have another question. What is a good way to communicate my feelings when I'm afraid to do it so openly?
To challenge yourself and do it so openly. I think that that's often the thing is we are internalizing our feelings and our emotions, and we're worried about what other people are going to think about us. That's like one of the biggest things that hinder us is we're worried about somebody else. And who cares? Who cares? If you have something that you need to get off your chest, if you have something that you need to verbalize, just start verbalizing it, and it, you can make sure that it's a surrounding where you're supported. It doesn't have to be in front of a whole lot of people, but I think that that's one of the skills that is not taught enough. Communication skills and acknowledging our feelings and sharing our feelings, and it's just so important. Whether that person or these individuals pass judgment or not, at least you are releasing those emotions and what you need to verbally express, and working towards healing.
Okay. Is there, in this COVID situation, how does one go about finding a therapy if technology is not reliable?
Listen, everything is not reliable right now, but that's not stopping our lives. I'm most fearful for the upcoming school year and our children, but that's not stopping us. You just have to do it. I actually think it's easier right now because everything is telehealth right now. Even meds are telehealth. And whether it's telehealth and you're doing a video platform like what we're doing right now, or if you're just doing on the phone, there is definitely a way right now to seek services. And what I will say is that we are in a time where co-pays are all being waived, and people know that people are in an emotional crisis right now. And so there's a lot of leniency in seeking care. And so I would highly encourage just to get out there and make an appointment and, take a shot and, do some telehealth. It's been very, very effective. Is it as effective as face-to-face? Maybe. That depends on the individual. But I think that whether it's telehealth or face-to-face, now is a time that, it is never seen as taboo right now when people seek some mental health services, because we're all struggling.
I have two more questions. Any suggestions to providers working in the field who are responsible for helping others cope, also while experiencing life-changing events such as COVID-19 and the racial inequality unrest?
That was a big one. Well, that's my life every day. This has been a very challenging year, not even just for all of our clients, but a lot of my employees, have struggled emotionally. COVID-19 has, created such a level of anxiety on a day-to-day basis. I don't know that I necessarily have a full answer to that question, but I know that as a leader that I have, tried to be supportive and, had opportunities to sit down with some of my employees, give guidance, encourage different strategies, and a lot of self-care. Like this year for myself, those first couple of months, like I think I worked probably 60 days straight, and it was hard. It was a really hard situation. But, once, I was really kind of able to regain my composure, I could see such a value in, a much slower paced life, and, not having to go out every single weekend to go to every single store to do this and do that. And, just really focusing on my own self-care. So I think that that's important for this individuals to spend some time on their own self-care as well.
And this ties into the last question we have. As a counselor, how do you relax?
Oh, well, I have a super, super, super support system. I'm in a position where my work family is like my family. Well, my family is also my work family. So I have a lot of fun. Like we have a lot of good times. We're gonna have a great party tomorrow night. We're gonna celebrate the life of Chadwick Boseman. Gonna, do a pool party and watch Black Panther together. And, I really, I value life. I value life a lot. And I feel like life is just so beyond just the societal norm of work, go home, work, go home, work, go home. And, I think it's important, to really um, take an opportunity to even appreciate the smallest things and, the simple things like, spending time with my girls sitting on the bed, while they're dancing or something like that. And so it doesn't have to be a great thing for me, but I do have a lot of fun. I'm very blessed to have a really awesome life.
Well, let me just say that someone just said, thank you for you inspiring us to accomplish life journey changes lives. So thank you so much for this wonderful information and the questions that were asked. And I know that this is information that is so well needed in the times that we're in now. But we'd like to thank you and plan to bring you back again.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to.
This is not the end. And I'll turn it back over to Enrollment Manager with Tyra Alexander and Dean Merrill.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on and spending the evening with us.
Can you show that last screen? Someone did wanted to see your information.
I was trying to, but I don't know. Did I stop share screening?
No, you're still on. Just go back to, yeah.
There we go. Hold on. There it is.
There it is.
So they probably, okay, this is my email address, and that's our office line. And then I have 3 websites, really cool websites. Life's Journey Services, that's my main company. I have BENICIA That is my website where I focus on empowering others really to live their best life. And then projectslifesjourney.org is our nonprofit. And like I said, we're doing an awesome fundraiser that I would love everyone to jump in and support.
Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We appreciate everyone that came out. Well, you didn't really come out. I guess you're at home watching this.
They still came out.
We appreciate you participating in this program. And we want to encourage you and let you know that this is part of a series, a 6-part series. And so next week, we will be having Rona, Is That You? Protect Me, Symptoms of Coronavirus and Ways to Prevent Exposure. And on Thursday of next week, Rona's on Wednesday, we'll be having How to De-Escalate Tense Interactions. I Hear You, the Talk, Law Enforcement Encounters and How to Prevent Escalation. And I hear that both Dr. Fitzgerald, who is the committee chair for Rona, as well as our NSU Police Department have some great things planned for us that will be both entertaining as well as informative for next week. Again, thank you for everyone that has participated, and I hope that everyone has a good evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.